Hi, this is Mike DiMartino, co-creator and executive producer of Avatar.
And this is Bryan Konietzko, the other co-creator and other executive producer.
Hi, I'm Benjamin Wynn, and I am one half of the track team, and I do sound design for the show.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Zuckerman. I'm the other half of the track team, and I compose the music.
Sweet. So we are going to look at the episode about the backstory of Roku and Sozin, which is a little bit different type of episode that we've done. It's got a lot of epic qualities to it. If you guys want to talk about the music a little bit, like what you were thinking when you went in and saw this episode for the first time.
Yeah, well, you guys had explained to us that you wanted sort of this continuity because we keep going back and forth between the two storylines, something to bring them together. So we sort of approached it more like a film score, with these sort of recurring themes that keep having variations and things.
Usually we have like a main, like an A plot or an A story, and then cutaways to a shorter B plot. But I think in this case, it was pretty evenly split between Sozin's story and Roku's story. So that was kind of the challenge, was jumping back and forth so much, having Jeremy compose music that didn't make it too like choppy, I guess.
Right.
You had to.
This sort of actually really lent itself to having continuity, ironically, because it was just very thematic. There's sort of that recurring sort of dichotomy between the two characters of Roku and Ozai.
Dude, that's heavy.
Yeah.
It's ironical.
It's ironically momentous.
How did you go about making continuity?
We took the sort of the main title theme and just kept doing variations off that mostly. There's also this sort of like this theme that sort of keeps connecting to Zuko's sort of discovery.
And just narratively, it's a different episode for us because usually Avatar focuses on some kids. Mike and I always joke it's kids and old people, but this was an episode that was more of kind of like a standard drama, TV drama. It was like focused on these two guys most of the time in their middle age years. So
It's true.
it was a little different tonally for us. I mean, we do serious episodes, but this one I think was more like a drama.
Definitely. It was actually really fun to be able to sort of indulge in that sort of seriousness.
Yeah, it's a captivating episode.
Yeah, to me, these are always my favorite types of episodes in other shows, is the kind of like backstory episodes where you can find out about side characters and stuff like that.
It's really satisfying.
I have to confess, I was, when we were pitching this story early on, I was a little worried that we were going to have too much backstory in season 3 and that maybe we weren't moving the plot forward enough. But this, I'm really, really happy with how this whole episode came out on every level, and I think in the end the whole backstory thing, the way it's tied in so closely with Zuko and Aang's relationships to what's going on and the world that they were each handed, I think it really enriches their story and their struggle and the context that they exist in. So I was happy to be proven wrong. I'm really happy with what everyone did.
Zuko's got quite a story in this one, doesn't he?
I'm just trying to imagine Uncle with like some lemon ink, like writing that little letter in jail. And then obviously, Ben, when we get to Act 3, that's just a sound design like extravaganza with the whole volcano thing. That was just wall to wall.
It's a sound smorgasbord. I feel like I'm watching it too much.
Yeah, can you guys not talk for a while? I really want to watch this.
Hopefully that's a good sign.
So is it kind of weird for you guys to work? I know you guys work separately, kind of, Ben doing the sound and Jeremy doing the music, like, because you're watching the episode with just sound. Is that ever kind of weird? You're like, wondering what the music's going to sound
Well,
like? Or...
generally, they really complement each other in that I'm always, it's not that weird to work to it without music. But then when the music comes in, it's like a whole new world, and it always comes together so well. So, it's not that weird, but it's always a nice surprise.
Yeah, I think we've learned to sort of, anticipate what the other one's going to do.
Uh-huh.
I think we, really kind of understand each other's styles at this point. In the beginning, I think it was a little more difficult, and it was probably a little harder to mix, too. I think we both did probably a little more, left a little less room for each other. And now I think we can sort of like say, okay, this is going to be more like, sound design moment. Sound design will carry the narrative here, or the music will carry it here,
But I remember early on we talked about that because
Yeah.
at least for this studio, and I think most shows, it's pretty rare to get a team that does sound design and music.
Right.
And you guys did the pilot together. You did both, but it was just the grind and the schedule of doing a whole series. Is why it was split up, as you know.
Yeah.
And but I mean, you guys used to work in the same room for a while.
For the first season.
Yeah,
That's
first
true.
season.
It was totally
Season and a
crazy.
half or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
I
crazy.
work on headphones.
Poor Ben was in there with the headphones.
Yeah. But I mean, I think even just the fact that you guys aren't fighting each other, you respect that. Like, okay, we're gonna need to make room for this or
Right.
that, and you guys do communicate as you go. So I mean, it is a pretty unique situation as far as I know on TV production.
Well, we both do understand music and sound because in our own sort of endeavors, we sort of think of music and sound as the same thing. So it's not really a leap for either one of us to understand what the other one's doing.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of got into sound design through music.
Right.
And just really liking to play around with sound and manipulate it and etc. And so my own music is, has qualities that are similar to sound design.
So here's this Zuko, discovering the backstory theme keeps coming back. That Celeste.
He's like, why does this music keep playing in my head?
I
Can't get it out of my head. I love that little transition where from Zuko to Roku, a little foreshadowing
Right.
to later where you find out that Roku is in fact one of Zuko's great-grandfathers.
Right.
I thought this casting of this voice was really spot on. He's got this same kind of voice quality as the normal Roku that we're used to.
Yeah, that was Marianne Dacey did a great job. We gave her a big challenge, which was to cast all these different ages of the same character, and we went through a couple rounds of trying to find just the right voices and stuff, and I think they all blended pretty well, and you believe that old Roku could have sounded like that when he was younger.
Yeah, it's a challenge because it's not that someone might not be a good actor. It's that do they sound like this continuous character at a specific age that matches with the character design.
That's my favorite poo joke.
It's one of the only. We don't do a lot of.
I think we need to rewind that.
That trombone is just out of control.
I know, it's really accurate.
We try to stay away from the poo and fart jokes,
I know.
but once in a while, it's okay.
That was a quality one.
Yeah.
It's part of life.
I was thinking it's got to be kind of weird for you guys because you watch this. You've probably seen it so many times in all the various stages of completion. So I wonder, what it's like for you guys to see it finally done.
But at least speaking for myself, I'm imagining the music from the moment we are storyboarding, even.
It's cool.
Or even before that. I mean, I think that's part of. I don't know. Especially the more episodes we make, you get a better idea when you start coming up with an idea, pretty close to what it could look like. And we just have so many talented people along the way who can manifest those ideas. So, as you guys know, we go through a pretty detailed spotting meeting with you guys where we have the silent version of the episode, and Mike and I sit down with the Foley artists and Ben and Jeremy, and we just talk about what we were going for, or any feelings or concerns about the scene or the emotions or any ideas. But it's Mike and I always get so excited. I think it's more like like, finally, it has the music and the sound and the Foley that it deserves.
Yeah, for me, yeah, you're right. We've seen it, like, we've been working on it for 8 months or something. By that point, after you guys have done the music, so to hear all the sound and music together, finally, it's like hearing the finished product, and it kind of reinvigorates my excitement for the episode, because by that point I'm like burnt out on the story or whatever. I'm like, is this episode even good? Or I don't know. And then I hear the music, I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
That's so cool.
There's the gujin.
Now, yeah, why don't you tell people about that instrument?
Okay, it's a that one is a 21 stringed Chinese zither-like instrument. It's a lot like a harp. It lies horizontally, and you pluck with your right hand, and you can do all these sort of articulations with your left hand, like bending the pitches or doing various vibratos or just these subtle sort of little details.
Now, is this something that you played before Avatar, or
No, this was something I learned specifically for Avatar, and I started studying with this amazing master, this woman Celia Liu, who also has been teaching me pipa, which is a Chinese, like a lute, like a guitar. Both of these instruments are thousands of years old. Not my particular instruments. They're probably about a year old. But yeah, they're really amazing. Really, really cool instruments. Really, just beautiful.
So that's pretty cool. I've known you for years, and you're an amazing multi-instrumentalist. But it's got to be pretty cool that the show has led you to these. I mean, would you have ever played those instruments?
No, I really wouldn't. So it really is, an amazing thing. It was sort of just like, a little gift the show gave to be able to sort of indulge myself in learning these instruments.
And now you enjoy playing them, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And there's also there's a duduk and shin.
Armenian.
Yeah.
Is that an Armenian? Is it a double reed or?
Yeah, it's a little bit like an oboe. Another very, old instrument. It's, I would say it's just like, it's what wood sounds like, It's really simple. That's Zuko, his instrument a lot is the duduk.
I love that shot. It's a great shot. Oh Sing-hyun.
Yeah, this whole scene
Storyboard.
is really nice.
So I wonder if people are curious about the overall lifespan of an episode. The various stages. How
People are always shocked, no matter how many times we say it in an interview. They're always shocked, like, oh, how long does it take to make an episode? You say, 9 to 10 months, and they're just jaws drop open, and it's crazy. So how long do you guys have?
2 weeks from the day we
10
spot.
days.
But in reality, since we have revisions and other things, probably 7 days.
Yeah, I'm like a day and a half.
We do it in a half an hour. We do it in real time, actually.
Real time.
Yeah.
That's
Actually,
the most-
people ask us how we work together, and I always tell them that few people know this, but Jeremy just calls me up on the phone and does all of the sound effects in real time with his voice.
It's true. This is true.
Maybe a little bit later.
Yeah, we'll give a demonstration.
We'll show you what that's about.
Like,
We'll give it
footstep.
Well, that's what's amazing is you guys have such a short amount of time to create this whole score, which, in an episode like this is really like a movie, and it's like wall-to-wall sound and music that you guys are able to produce this amazing quality in such a short amount of time.
Well, it's definitely yeah. I mean, it definitely every time it's sort of like, will this be the one that breaks my mind?
Well, when we do this, the next spot, it's always, a few hours after you finish the previous show, and you guys are always like, really? You want to talk about a new episode?
That's the one thing we never, we don't really get to sort of sit back and enjoy it until later, but that's cool. Sort of raise the bar,
Kind of forget all the amazing work you've done.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
I mean, I think working for television is a specific skill that you have to sort of hone,
Yeah.
and get better at, and it has to do with the highest results possible for a short amount of time.
Right.
So any notes about the sound design here, Ben? Some big.
What was that crazy airbending sound?
Oh God, all these sounds are probably so many different things mixed together. I think that was just a wind. When you sort of ride the envelope of it. I think it was bass that I probably sort of took out the high end of an explosion for the bass, and then I think there might even be some voice from when Jeremy and I did the pilot. We actually did do a lot of the sounds with our voice, and I think I still use those all the time for firebending and for airbending too.
And then you do like digital signal processing to.
Right, like you could take, I don't know, the sound of our voice, doing some gesture and modify that to actually sound like wind or fire, basically.
We actually
We can demonstrate that.
sort of made some of our own software for the
That's right.
for the show.
That's why we hired you guys. You're just nerdy enough to
Yeah,
write your own
seriously.
software.
Getting nerdier every day too.
What does the software do?
Well, it's this program called Super Collider, and it
Which they didn't write.
no, we didn't write that program, but it's basically like an audio sort of programming environment, and it's all text based. So it's sort of like
It's like old DOS. Like you have to
well,
write your own
it's
code.
sort of like a language called Smalltalk, a little bit like C++ or something like that. The five programmers
Mike.
out there.
What is C++?
I know. Kids are gonna love this part.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, it's just I don't know. It's so open ended. It's so hard to describe.
No,
what
but
it
I mean
does.
the patches that we
Oh,
made.
like we made that texture patch, right? We used that, which is
Yeah, I use that all the time. Actually, in 3.10, I use that a lot. If you have one sound, it will make it into a lot of sounds by playing it back at various rates and various panning positions and pitches and
various.
Yeah, so it
times
makes
in
like
the file.
a small sound like a huge.
yeah.
bigger sound.
In the battle where there was going to be just explosions going on all the time in the background. So in other words, you don't see the action, but it's implied that the battle is still going on. I basically took a whole folder of explosions, brought it into this patch, and it sort of generates a nice random natural sounding bed of activity.
Right.
So like a scene like this, which has tons of sound design and obviously lots of music too. Like, how many separate tracks are there?
Well, for me, there's about 22.
Wow.
For me, this was like a pretty full orchestral
Yeah.
thing. So there's you got all the different sort of instrument groups of the orchestra,
And Ben,
and
how
percussion and stuff like that. So
how many individual sounds, like audio files, will you load into one episode, into
Oh,
one
man.
project?
I wish I knew that. Sometimes I think I should print screenshots from these sessions because they're almost like strange artwork. I mean, I don't mean it that it's
like
so
abstract.
artistic, but yeah, it's just so much information going on that it's kind of interesting. I mean, every sound is made up of
Multiple
at least
layers.
2, 3, 4 other sounds, and like explosions are never just one sound. All these things are layered and layered and layered. So it's a whole lot. Maybe I'll go back and count.
So on
I'm scared.
Avatar, I mean, one of the challenges is we always said we wanted, even though they're doing fantastic type things, we wanted them to sound realistic, and so
Right.
like just that moment where Roku cools a bunch of lava instantly with some frosty breath. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
what that sounds like. It's
Right.
like something
It has
no
to be
one could
believable.
have ever heard. But
It's funny too because it's that's the kind of that sound design I think can be harder than other kinds. Where abstract sound design in some ways is easier to do because there's various ways to do the same thing. There's various right answers, but when something is supposed to sound totally natural, there's only one answer. So
Yeah.
you kind of have to find it.
There's not a moment to waste.
yeah, because you're working with the technology to make these sounds, but you don't want to hear the technology.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's the funny thing too is that if it's done properly, it doesn't even sound like sound design. It just sounds like what they're doing.
Right. The trusty taiko drums that we recorded.
yeah. You guys recorded a real taiko group, right?
Yeah.
Capitol Studios.
So I would say, like the fact that, Jeremy, you're learning these instruments and performing them. I mean, with the schedule of like TV shows, my guess is that it's pretty rare TV composers even play actual instruments for their scores. I mean, they're usually just using MIDI, right? Just because of the time.
Yeah, they
constraints.
I guess they hire people a lot, but we're too cheap to hire anyone.
What, you mean players?
Right.
Yeah, I mean even timing wise, it's hard.
I think
Yeah,
it's just
that's-
to the
that's-
schedule of
right.
those, even live action shows. I mean, they crank those things out.
I know that with a lot of shows, what they'll do is they'll hire, a player, an instrumentalist, to come in and just record tons of material. Then they'll just sort of like use it throughout the,
Right.
Just splice
See,
themes together.
Yeah,
and
and
stuff.
sort of like use it as source material.
What else is live? A lot of the drums are live. Oh, the kalimba.
Yeah.
Fun piano.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
little
the cello.
happy-
You had some cello keys as well.
Yeah, I use cello a lot just for because I'm not I can't play cello very well at all, so I use it for scary sounds,
And
scratching the bow
and then
He's boring. I love that transition though.
and flute. You've done some amazing flute performances.
Right, yeah, my $10 Chinese flutes.
And this is this voice, Mike.
This was I'm blanking on his name.
Ron Perlman.
Ron Perlman.
Oh, it is. That's cool.
Yeah, he played the this older Sozin character.
So great.
He is great.
I love the depth he adds to that. I like when bad guys are more. I mean, he's a bad guy, but he's got this interesting story where he came from.
Right.
Oh, actually, Ben, the background to that pan was taken from a photograph you took in Antarctica.
Right.
Oh, wow.
I flipped it upside down because it was an iceberg, but I needed an underwater one, so I think I inverted it and flipped it upside
That's so
down.
cool.
And said, "Hey Ben, I used your photo."
I
Thanks.
asked for $10,000.
One of the rare moments in the episode where there's no music.
Yeah, which is good.
It's
I
nice.
think
Yeah, it
it's
gives it
been-
sort of a breath.
And also, this is the first time Uncle has spoken.
That's right.
In season
Big
3.
moment.
Make room for that
Exactly.
sonically.
Yeah. And this is Greg Baldwin, who took over for the late Mako, who originally played Uncle, and does a great job just capturing Mako's spirit and voice and stuff.
Was that a hard search to undertake?
It ended up being much easier than we thought it was going to be. He was actually like the second guy who auditioned,
Oh, wow.
and he had kind of studied Mako's voice years ago, so he was familiar with how Mako performed
He
already.
had studied him for a different project.
Yeah,
Yeah, Mako had started a Broadway production, and there were recordings of this, and Greg had that same role when he was young, and he had spent all this time admiring and studying Mako's voice.
Who knew years later
Yeah. Really.
he would take over for him?
And believe it or not, it was actually pitched. It was just part of the writing that we were doing when we were doing the writing retreat for season 3. We had already written that Uncle wasn't going to speak for several episodes. It was very tragic and sad that Mako passed, but it actually just coincided with what we had already planned, which just for our little production made it a little bit easier to take time to find someone.
Right. I mean, you guys hadn't planned on having him speak any earlier than.
Yeah, I mean story-wise that was just the case. Uncle was very disappointed and to go and sort of giving him tough love by not speaking to him.
Right.
So, but we of course miss Mako. He was amazing. And
He was.
this is one of my favorite moments. This
This
timing.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
It is so
It's
good.
a nice light ending to a heavy episode.
Wow, that was a whole episode. Wow.
Yeah, it
Thanks
goes
for
by
listening.
fast, right?
Yeah, sure is.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for all the
Thanks
crazy,
you.
Thanks for
great
having us.
sound and music. And
It's been a great journey.
Sure has.
well, let's talk about another episode.
All right. Let's do them all.
Thanks, everybody.